Not when you're surrounded, but when you're alone. It's easy to feel strong when you're in a crowd. It's easy to smile when people are cheering you on. But what happens when no one shows up? When no one claps? When no one calls? That's the real test. The world doesn't always offer support on schedule. Sometimes you'll look around for help, and all you'll see is your own shadow. That's when you better be strong enough to walk forward anyway. Don't build your strength on applause. Build it on purpose. Build it on purpose. You've got to be the kind of person who's dangerous in solitude. Not because you're reckless, but because you're self-reliant, independent, disciplined when no one is watching. Get used to your own company. Learn to enjoy your own thoughts. Study, grow, build, plan, while others are waiting for the perfect partner, the perfect team, the perfect timing. Because if you can survive alone, you won't fear losing anyone. That's not arrogance. That's preparation. That's insurance against betrayal. That's your edge when life gets uncertain. Train your mind to be your own mentor. Train your habits to be your own coach. And train your heart to be your own source of fire. People will come and go. Support will fade in and out. But if you've trained yourself to stand alone, you'll never truly fall. Self-reliance is a necessary strength, not a backup plan. It's not something you turn to only when others walk away. It's something you build so you never have to beg, chase, or collapse when people disappear. Because let's be honest, life is unpredictable. One day, everyone's with you. The next day, no one is answering your call. If your peace, your progress, or your purpose depends entirely on someone else showing up, you're already at risk. You weren't born to be helpless without company. You were born with tools inside you. Your mind, your will, your spirit. And if you train them, if you sharpen them, they'll carry you further than any favor ever could. Self-reliance doesn't mean shutting the world out. It means being strong enough that you can walk alone when needed and still make it. Still grow, still build something that matters. When you rely on your own discipline, you're never without structure. When you rely on your own standards, you're never without direction. And when you rely on your own fire, you're never without motivation. People can inspire you. Friends can encourage you, but they can't do your push-ups. They can't write your goals. They can't fight your battles. That's on you. And that's exactly why you have to develop the muscle of self-reliance before the storm hits. If life pulls the rug out from under you, will you stand back up? If every door closes, will you find a window? If no one claps, will you still perform? Self-reliance means you're not waiting for a rescue, because you are your own rescue team. Not because you don't value others, but because you value yourself enough to be ready, even if no one shows up. It's not just strength, it's a responsibility. To yourself, to your future, to your dreams. So remember this, self-reliance isn't a last resort. It's your first power. You grow the most when you're alone, not when you're supported, when no one's clapping, when no one's calling to check in, when no one's watching your progress or praising your effort. That's when you discover who you really are. Because it's easy to feel confident when everyone believes in you. It's easy to show up strong when you're surrounded by cheers. See, but true growth doesn't happen in the spotlight. It happens in the silence. It happens in the early mornings when you rise before the world. In the quiet nights when your thoughts are louder than the noise outside. When it's just you, your doubts, and your decision to keep going anyway. Support is beautiful, yes, but solitude builds something stronger. It teaches you to rely on discipline instead of encouragement. It teaches you to stay focused without applause. It sharpens your mind because you're forced to think, reflect, and adapt without waiting for someone to guide you. Alone, you learn how to fight your own battles. How to pick yourself up when no hand reaches out. How to motivate yourself when you feel tired, overwhelmed, and invisible. That kind of growth isn't loud. It doesn't come with fireworks or recognition, but it stays. It becomes part of you. It creates a version of you that doesn't fall apart when life gets hard. Being alone pushes you to become your own coach, your own cheerleader, your own problem solver. And once you've done that, once you've built in the dark, no one can take that strength from you. You realize you don't need support to stand tall. You appreciate it, but you're not dependent on it. Because you've already done the work. You've already climbed the mountain without a crowd. And that's when you truly grow, not just in skill or success, but in who you are at your core. Don't depend on applause. Depend on purpose. Because applause is temporary. It comes and goes with the mood of the crowd. One day they'll cheer for you. The next day they might forget your name. If your drive is built on praise, you'll quit the moment it goes quiet. But if your drive is built on purpose, you'll keep going, whether they notice or not. Applause feels good. No doubt about it. Recognition is a beautiful thing, but it's not reliable fuel. It runs out fast. And if that's all you've got in your tank, you won't finish the race. Purpose, on the other hand, doesn't fade when the lights go out. It stays with you through the hard days, the slow seasons, the lonely climbs. It reminds you why you started. It keeps your fire alive when no one is clapping. You don't need a crowd to stay committed. You just need a reason that matters, a reason that pulls you out of bed in the morning, a reason that holds you together when everything around you is falling apart. Applause is a reaction. Purpose is a decision. One is given to you. The other is built by you. People may admire your success, but they'll never understand the hours you worked in silence, the nights you kept pushing without feedback, the sacrifices you made when nobody was watching. And that's okay, because you're not doing it for the spotlight. You're doing it for something deeper, something lasting, something that can't be taken from you. Purpose doesn't need permission. It doesn't wait for applause. It just moves forward one step at a time, unshaken, unimpressed by approval, unbothered by silence. So don't depend on the cheers. They'll fade. Depend on your mission. Depend on your values. Depend on that inner voice that knows exactly what you were built to do. Because if your reason is strong enough, the noise outside won't matter. You'll still rise, you'll still build, and you'll still finish what you started. Isolation reveals your true character, not the version of you that shows up for the crowd, not the one who knows what to say when people are watching, but the one who shows up when no one is around, when there's no audience, no validation, no instant reward. That's when the truth surfaces. You learn what you really believe when you're the only voice in the room. You see what you truly value when no one's there to impress. You find out whether you're driven by commitment or by comfort. Because when it's just you and the silence, there's nowhere to hide. In isolation, distractions fall away. The noise fades, the filters disappear, and what's left is real. You see your habits, your thoughts, your excuses, your strengths, your fears. You face the parts of yourself you've been avoiding. You realize how much of your energy was spent performing, smiling for others, adjusting your tone, changing your pace to match the crowd. But in isolation, none of that matters. There's no one to please. There's no mask to wear. It's just you. That's when you discover if you can lead yourself, if you can motivate yourself, if you can be disciplined without someone watching. That's when you find out if you're committed because it matters, or if you were only showing up to be seen. Isolation builds a kind of strength the world can't give you. It shows you who you are without applause, without pressure, without company. And that clarity is a gift, because once you know who you are in the quiet, you're no longer shaken by the noise. You stop chasing approval. You stop depending on company. You start living with intention. Isolation strips you down to your foundation. And if the foundation is solid, you realize something powerful. You don't need a crowd to stay true. You just need conviction. The courage to face yourself honestly. That solitude should be training ground, not punishment. It's not a sentence. It's a season. It's not where you're forgotten. It's where you're forged. Most people fear being alone. They see silence as empty, not powerful. But those who grow the most know something different. They know that in solitude, the real work begins. That's where distractions fade, where comparison dies, where your own voice gets louder than the noise of the world. In solitude, you have no audience, no approval to chase, no image to manage. And that's exactly why it's sacred, because that's when you start to notice what actually matters. That's when you hear your own thoughts clearly. That's when you begin to shape your vision without the influence of someone else's opinion. Solitude sharpens you. It teaches you to be your own motivator, your own teacher, your own accountability partner. It shows you whether you're moving because you're inspired or because you're just following the crowd. Most people use company as a crutch. They need others around to feel valuable, to feel certain. But those who train in solitude learn a deeper truth. They learn how to be whole without being surrounded, how to be focused without being watched, how to be strong without being praised. That's not weakness. That's mastery. Solitude gives you time to reflect, to correct, to direct your energy with purpose. It gives you the space to build habits, mindset, and skills that last. When you're alone, you don't have to impress anyone. You just have to improve. So instead of running from those quiet seasons, embrace them. Use them. Let them mold you. Because when you come out of solitude, you'll be stronger, clearer, and more centered than ever before. Not because someone gave you a roadmap, but because you created one for yourself in the quiet, in the stillness, in the solitude. You are your own first responder in every crisis. Before anyone picks up the phone, before anyone knocks on your door, before help arrives, you're already there. You're the first on the scene. Because it's your mind, your emotions, your actions that will determine what happens next. You can't outsource your response to panic. You can't wait for rescue to calm your nerves. You have to be ready to take command, even when your world feels like it's spinning. Life doesn't always give you warning signs. Sometimes it hits fast, unexpected, unfair. But when it does, your mindset is the first tool you reach for. Your strength, your preparation, your discipline. That's your emergency kit. In the heat of the moment, no one has time to coach you. People may care. They may show up later. But right then, in the thick of it, you've got to be your own calm, your own clarity, your own courage. You've got to be the one who breathes deep while the pressure rises. The one who doesn't fold but focuses. The one who doesn't run but responds. Because whether it's an emotional storm, a financial hit, or a personal loss, you are the first person who has the power to choose what happens next. Do you freeze? Do you fall apart? Or do you anchor down, assess, and act? It doesn't mean you have all the answers. It means you don't abandon yourself in chaos. You stay grounded. You don't need a crowd to validate your process. You need discipline. You need patience. You need the kind of dedication that thrives in the silence. And when you build habits like that, habits that are stable, quiet, reliable, you become unstoppable. You stop depending on willpower. You stop chasing energy. You just do the work, and the work starts to shape you. Not loudly, not instantly, but deeply. Build those habits, the silent ones, the steady ones, because they're the ones that carry you when everything else fades. But being strong alone protects you from emotional dependence. It gives you the freedom to choose relationships, not from need, but from clarity. You're not clinging to people because you're empty. You're connecting because you're full. When you learn to stand on your own, you stop asking others to carry your weight. You stop expecting them to fix your mood, complete your story, or rescue you from yourself. You become whole, and whole people make better choices. They don't chase love out of loneliness. They don't accept disrespect just to feel connected. They don't shrink themselves to avoid being abandoned. Emotional dependence is subtle. It shows up when your peace is tied to someone else's presence, when your confidence only exists in their approval, when your identity starts to blur with theirs. But when you're strong alone, you carry your own peace. You bring your own confidence to the table. You know who you are even when no one's validating you. That strength doesn't come from pretending not to care. It comes from doing the work, the inner work. The kind where you face your fears, sit with your silence, and learn to trust your own voice. Being strong alone means you can walk away from what isn't right, because you're not scared to be by yourself. You're not desperate to fill space with just anyone. It means you set boundaries, not out of anger, but out of respect for yourself. You no longer tolerate chaos just to avoid solitude. You don't confuse attachment with love. You don't confuse attention with value. When you built your strength in solitude, you bring presence, not pressure, to every relationship. You no longer expect others to fix your emotions because you've learned how to face them, to manage them, to grow through them. You're not cold. You're not distant. You're just balanced. And that balance creates space for healthy connection, for real intimacy, for love that's chosen, not needed. Being strong alone doesn't make you harder to love. It makes you capable of real love because you're not looking for someone to fill you up. You're looking for someone to grow with. And that's the difference. Not if you can stand alone, you'll never be truly broken because the one who learns to stand alone becomes unshakable. You're not held together by the presence of others. You're held together by purpose, by principle, by inner strength. You understand that company is a bonus, not a requirement. That support is helpful, but not a crutch. And that when everything falls apart around you, the foundation you built within will hold. When you can stand alone, setbacks don't define you. Betrayals don't break you. Loneliness doesn't destroy you because you've already faced the silence and survived it. You've already stood in the storm without flinching. You've already carried yourself through pain, disappointment, and uncertain. That doesn't mean you don't feel pain. It means you know how to walk through it without losing yourself. It means you've learned how to steady your breathing when everything feels like it's collapsing. It means you've practiced getting up with no audience, no applause, no help. If you can stand alone, you stop fearing what might leave. You stop begging for someone to stay just so you feel okay. You stop compromising who you are just to avoid being alone. Because you know, at the end of the day, you are enough, not in theory, in reality. You've proven it to yourself. When you stand alone, your voice gets louder in your own ears. You hear your own truth more clearly. You make decisions without needing 10 opinions to back them up. You move with quiet confidence because you know where you've been and what you've survived. There's a power in that solitude, a power that isn't loud but deeply rooted, a power that says, I may be alone, but I'm not lost. I may be walking alone, but I'm not weak. I may not be surrounded, but I'm still solid. When you can stand alone, you don't fall apart when the crowd walks away. Wah. You don't lose direction when the path gets quiet. You don't give up just because no one's watching. Because you didn't start for attention. You started for a reason. And that reason still matters. Even in silence. Even in solitude. Even when it's just you and your will to keep going. So what's the lesson? Build the kind of strength that doesn't depend on applause. Build the kind of mindset that doesn't need company to stay clear. Build the kind of discipline that keeps going when no one is looking. Because life won't always hand you comfort. It won't always give you backup. And it certainly won't pause until you feel ready. But if you've trained yourself to survive alone, to think clearly, act wisely, and stand firmly, then nothing can truly break you. Not silence. Not setbacks, not solitude. You won't crumble when support fades. You won't fold when the room is empty. Because you'll already know, you don't need a crowd to keep moving. You don't need approval to stay committed. You don't need company to stay strong. You just need purpose. You just need belief. You just need you. And if you've built that, then you're already unstoppable.